Hey, welcome back. I guess this doesn't need to be opened. You can look in my closet if you're, I don't know, weird a little bit. But I think we're live. Welcome back to Tailosive Tech live on YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're having a fantastic Monday. It is February. Have I been live in February? I guess I have. But I hope you're doing well. We've got an Apple event, theoretically. At least this is coming from Mark Gurman. So this news dropped not long after I talked about how Apple doesn't need an event for just the iPad Air 5 and the iPhone SE 3, because I think those two product categories are the two upgrades they're getting are incredibly stale. They're very basic. It's just like, I guess this needs center stage now. I guess this needs 5G now. There's like no rumored design changes for those two. Just spec bumps and little camera enhancement on the front-facing option. It's so small, but Mark Gurman then said Apple is currently shooting for March 8th for the next Apple event, which is not that long. It's actually a lot sooner than I thought because, Quo, I believe, was talking about how they were expecting delivery of the iPhone SE refresh to be like late April. But yeah, Gurman is saying they straight up expect an announcement in early March, which is actually not typical, at least from what I can remember. In the past, usually the Apple spring events are typically later March, but maybe production's either going better than they thought, or the other alternative is they just want to announce it on March 8th and it's not actually ready to ship yet. I'm not even totally expecting Mac Mini. I know that other people have stated they expect a new Mac Mini to come out at this event, but I have my doubts about that personally because I wouldn't even say Mac Mini is like a for sure thing. At this point, with Apple registering Macs and iPads in the Eurasian database, I won't ever use the term confirmed unless it's from Apple, but I would say we're pretty dang sure, not confirmed, but pretty dang sure we're going to get a new iPhone SE that's now going to have 5G support and the iPad Air 5 at the spring event, whenever it ends up being. It could be March 8th. They could push it back depending on production issues. Oftentimes, whenever leakers or analysts come forward with concrete dates, they end up being wrong. So that's still a possibility here. Sometimes, if a lot of people say an event's going to be at a certain time, I always wonder if Apple just changes it just so that, we don't believe the leakers as much, or they just like to see people end up being wrong so that we're more skeptical. That's more in conspiracy territory, but it does make sense logically. If Apple doesn't want you to trust what the leakers or what the analysts are saying, and they want their validity or their is that the right word? Validity. I put the emphasis on the wrong syllable. But yeah, like the only reason I'm doubting the Mac Mini report is because Apple is already having a hard time catching up on MacBook Pro orders. With the M1 Pro and M1 Max chip, I know that the chip shortage is impacting production of those two MacBooks already, and the profit margins on them have to be much better than the Mac Mini, right? The Mac Mini inherently is very, very hard for Apple to price fairly high because it doesn't come with a keyboard, it doesn't come with a display, it doesn't really even come with a speaker setup. I know there's like a tiny little speaker on the inside, but for the most part, Mac Mini is all about value. Mac Mini is about buy third-party accessories to go with one little brick of a computer that Apple makes. And I know that we all want it. Like, let's be honest. I mean, the idea of making an M1 Pro or M1 Max chip available in a far cheaper machine, of course, that's super tempting. If I was not, if I didn't own this MacBook Pro, that would absolutely be my go-to choice. I would be like, absolutely, let me buy a cheap third-party monitor that has 144 hertz, pair it with my Mac Mini. Therefore, I can get the great speed, I can get the right size and the right refresh rate I want, and Mac setup. Unfortunately, because of all of the traveling we've been doing and all the trips we've been taking, and not unfortunately, that's a good thing. I should say, fortunately, I was in the market for a laptop because I wanted to be able to take my computer with me on trips and stuff. As our lifestyle has changed, I needed a MacBook. So I was not going to wait for the Mac Mini or the iMac Pro anymore. Once we realized we were going to be taking so many trips this year, I was like, yeah, I can't wait around for the iMac. I can't wait around for the Mac Mini because either way, I'm going to want a laptop. I'm going to want something that's powerful, that's also mobile. So that's why I bought this. But before we made that decision to make our lifestyle more flexible with travel and stuff. I was just thinking my computer's just going to sit here at the desk and it'll never move. So I was going to wait until the M1 Pro or M1 Max came out on an iMac or a Mac Mini and buy that. So I'm glad I'm not in that buying decision anymore because I would still be waiting. It's still not out. And of course, we all want those chips to come into cheaper Macs, and I would almost admit, yeah, it would be event worthy if there was an M1 Pro Mac Mini coming, but at the end of the day, I don't even think really the design is going to change. I know some people have stated otherwise, but I don't think the Mac Mini needs a design update. I mean, if anything, that would drive the cost of production up and not help with the affordability. I know that there's one Intel Mac Mini left on the website, but my thought process is just that they're offering that for the people who need boot camp for whatever reason. They're not offering it because the Intel chip in that Mac Mini is better than the M1. It's not. The only thing that the M1 comes up short with when it's compared to that one Intel Mac Mini is the throughput. The Thunderbolt ports are limited on the Thunderbolt controllers are limited on the M1, which means that you can't have 4 Thunderbolt ports with the M1 chip. I'm not even really sure if you can do 4 Thunderbolt ports with the M1 Pro. I assume you can. But we've only so far had 3 Thunderbolt ports on all of our M1 Pro and M1 Max machines. So maybe it has the controllers to support, all of the things that we have on this plus an extra Thunderbolt, but I'm not sure if that's possible. So I'm not thinking there will be a design update personally. I think that even then, like as cool as that product would be, does it need to be on stage? Does it need an unveiling? It's just going to be the exact same Mac Mini now that's faster, but I would expect the design to be almost entirely the same. Let's see. Mac Mini Shuffle. Yeah, that's what we need. AirPods Pro 2, $229. Just to adjust with inflation. Oh, wait, no. AirPods Pro 250. Absolutely not. AirPods Pro 2 will at least be the same price, maybe more. What's up, Ben? Everyone tuning in. Virgil, Alpha. Thank you all the members for your support. We should make chips in America. We could. They would just cost a whole lot more. There's actually so much interesting development in supply chains that I don't think gets enough attention. Like, I was reading about how the chip fabrication plants or just smartphone manufacturing areas where the reason so much is made in China is not just because of the cost of labor being so much less. It's not just because they have this huge workforce that, it's legal and statistically just common there for the companies to pay less. But it also has to do with layout of fabrication and factory plants. Like where logic boards and transistors and chips are all built really, really close together, it makes them insanely affordable to transport components and electronics between the factories. So even if you're just like, we should make chips in America, it's like, it's not just about like, okay, build the chip factory right here, lay out a bunch of concrete, put up some walls, now go in there and build the chips. The problem is the raw materials and all of the components that go into the chips are going to be so far away from that factory. That's one of China's greatest advantages when it comes to like manufacturing so much electronics, is because everything is just so close together and well optimized that it's not like up to one company. Like you couldn't just have one company say, we're going to build this in America, because they would have to import and have to pay for all this extra transport costs to bring all of the components together. So really interesting, that layout. I wish it was that simple, but yeah, the chips would be far more expensive if we built them here. But yeah, they could. I guess they could theoretically build them there. M1 Pro has 3 controllers, which technically could support up to 3 Thunderbolt 3/4 ports. I feel like Thunderbolt 4 needs entire controllers. That's what I heard. Do you think Apple Keyboard is better or Max Keyboard for Mac Mini? What's the Max Keyboard? I don't know what that is. But I just know that Apple keyboards are fairly expensive, so if there's nothing inherently you love about this type of keyboard, absolutely go on Amazon and just find some highly reviewed keyboard. I'm sure that'll work fine. I mean, this charges via Lightning, so it's already not that great. Only reason I have this is because it came with my iMac. I'd probably, maybe I would have bought one. I think someone gifted me one at some point. I was using the old Intel Mac Mini, and I was like, I want to use a keyboard with this, but I don't like all the third-party ones. And someone was like, okay, I'll buy you an Apple keyboard. So it was like a birthday present or something. So Um, let's see. They could make the Mac Mini thinner, maybe as close as a closed MacBook Pro. That's what Apple would compare it to. Why does the size of the Mac Mini matter though? I mean, the Apple TV used to be thinner. They proudly and without any acknowledgement just made the Apple TV way thicker so that the CPU would be better inside it. So I don't know why, if it's a box that you're not looking at, you can hide it behind a monitor. The Mac Mini even more so, because you don't have a remote that you have to like line it up with. But yeah, I don't really think they care about the overall thickness of the desktop. That's why the Mac Pro is so big. At least if it's an all-in-one like an iMac, that's a different story, because you're going to be looking at it. It's going to be on a desk all by itself. Whereas the Mac Mini, that's not going to be all by itself. You're not going to be staring at the Mac Mini. You'll stare at an iMac though. It would be the NVIDIA GPU. Let's see. What do you think your next Apple product will be that isn't a review unit? Ooh. That's a tough one, because I'm pretty content with what I got so far. I think I've said this before, but I have everything Apple makes that I'm interested in. I like the AirPods Pro, I like the Apple Watch Series 7, I like the 13 Pro Max, I like the MacBook Pro. Everything that I like that Apple has made, I have. I'm a addict, I'm an Apple sheep, I bought everything I like. Everything I don't have is something I'm not interested in, like using in my ecosystem. Like I appreciate and love the AirTags, but I just don't have a use for them. Ever since AirTags have come out, I've not lost my keys, I have not misplaced anything, I haven't lost anything. My bike was stolen, but that wouldn't have helped with AirTags, because it would have notified whoever stole it that they had an AirTag with them, and they could have easily removed it. So AirTag's not good for tracking down stolen things. At least Apple, it directly encourages people not to use it to track down stolen goods. So maybe I could have tracked down my bike, but even if I still had my bike, I probably wouldn't have attached an AirTag to it, just because I wouldn't know where to put it. It would be either incredibly obvious with tape on the outside, or I'd have to like cut it open and slide the AirTag in on the inside, in which case the battery would probably die at a certain point and I'd forget about it. But in history, Apple has always made devices thinner. Mac Mini is still a thick boy. But no, it's not true at all. Actually, iPhones have gotten statistically thinner every single generation since 2015. So for the past 7 years, iPhones only have gotten thicker. And iPad Pros were thinner in 2018. Now they've grown to past 6 millimeters. Before they were under 6 millimeters. The MacBook Pro currently is thinner than the the current 16-inch MacBook Pro is thicker than the last generation Intel MacBook Pro. So they don't statistically just always make things thinner. Over time, some things do get thinner, some things get thicker, especially the Apple TV, which is what I would compare. Design-wise, the Apple TV is frankly fairly similar to the Mac Mini, and they've shown no interest in making that thinner. In fact, I think the first generation Apple TV was thinner than the second generation, which was thinner than the third, which was thinner than the fourth. And so far, they've kept the Apple TV thickness the same the whole time. I wish they didn't do the bullcrap with AirTags that doesn't allow your family to view them and limited to only one person. We have 3 cats, perfect use case, and we're part of a family. Why Apple? That I don't quite understand. I feel like that could be an iOS feature. I don't know why, AirTags couldn't be shared. Maybe it's a privacy concern. They don't want anything to be spotted down. Like, I don't know. Sometimes when things seem very clear, there's usually like a counter argument I haven't thought of yet that maybe Apple has. For example, if the family could know where dad's keys are at all times, maybe it's not a good thing for the kids to know exactly how to find the keys. Or if you have keys somewhere in the house, or dad has them on him, do you want the kid to be able to ping the keys all day? So the dad's in a meeting and he's got his keys in his pocket, but because the kid opened the Find My app, he's pinging the AirTag over and over again. The dad's like, shut up, stop, something like that. I don't know. Maybe there's a reason, but again, it should be an option. I agree. Like, you should be able to, if it's an AirTag specifically attached to a cat, you should be able to just tap that and say, share this with other people. The Apple TV remote uses Bluetooth, so you don't have to point it at right. It uses both. It still has a infrared blaster on it. If you want to control TV's certain functionalities, you can, but it does use Bluetooth and infrared. For the Apple TV itself, I don't think it needs line of sight anymore. It used to, but I could understand privacy. But within a family, we all opt into the family. If you had a kid, you don't want them like pinging your AirTag when you're at work or something. Will your next Apple product be AirPods Pro second generation? Yeah, that probably is high on my list because my AirPods Pro are getting old, and they still work. They still get the job done, but I can definitely tell that the battery health has deteriorated over time. And unfortunately, with AirPods, as much as I love the Buds and I hate the over-ear AirPods Maxes, like I can't justify the $600 with the crappy case and the lightning port, and there's still so much I don't like about AirPods Max. I'm not willing to spend that kind of money on them. So in the meantime, I'm just going to have to live with the little pods. And one of the compromises with the pods is that after a certain number of years, the battery deteriorates so much, or one of them gets so quiet that it gets to the point of it's either really annoying to use them, or the other thing I was thinking about was with me and my wife, we're taking a lot more flights this year. We've already taken so many plane rides. She doesn't have active noise cancellation on her AirPods. So if I got AirPods Pro 2, she could probably use my first generation AirPods Pro. So that's probably the most likely on my list of upgrading. But I'm still not 100% sold on them because if the battery life doesn't improve much, I'm not sure if I want to keep endorsing this spending style of just like, well, you spend $250 on headphones, they last for 3 years, and then you got to buy new ones, and then those last for 3 years, and then you got to buy new ones. I mean, with technology and how batteries deteriorate, there's a certain amount of just acceptance we have with that. You can't just buy an iPhone and use it for 20 years. After a certain point, the software gets deteriorated and the battery gets worse enough. Obviously, the average length of ownership has improved quite a bit. So over time, we can hold on to our devices longer and longer. But particularly with AirPods, because the battery health thing is such an issue, because the batteries are so tiny, that's just, I don't know if I want to keep doing that. Whereas if I had some good over-ear headphones with 20-hour battery lives, I could hold on to those for much, much longer. Will you try Stream Deck? What is Stream Deck? Do you mean the little, like, custom button thing? I have that, but I don't really have a need for it. The example he used feels like a corner case, but maybe the fix is to optionally protect the Find My app with a pin. Corner cases do prevent things. Apple could easily let you track down stolen items with AirTags, but then easily a corner case is that some people will use AirTags to stalk people. Now, you could easily make the argument most people will not use AirTags to stalk people. I bet less than 1% of people would buy AirTags with the intention of trying to stalk people. But despite that corner case existing, it's something that Apple really doesn't want others to utilize or abuse. So it's a corner case, but it's a pretty big one. Nobody is laughing at Intel anymore. Look at you, stupid Intel. I'll laugh. There you go. Has your schedule changed? Yes, it has. Because my wife is no longer working at the same place she was before. Now I'm going with more of a traditional work schedule, although it's still somewhat flexible because life happens and, family shows up and plans change and, schedules adapt. But for the most part, I'm essentially working when there's not a trip going on, which there are trips going on shortly. I'm going to work Monday through Friday, and then I take the weekends off, which is kind of perfect because we record the podcasts on Friday, and then they go live on Saturday, which means you should get live streams or videos of some kind throughout Monday through Friday. And then on Saturday, you'll get a podcast. Unfortunately, I got nothing for you on Sunday, but whatever. But the schedule of my content is not very structured because there's still all kinds of trips going on and plans change and things pop up. So sometimes if we have something going on with family or friends, I'll not work on a weekday and then I'll work an extra day on the weekend. Occasionally, if there's some kind of news I really want to get to, I'll make a video on a Sunday or a Saturday. It's not very solid. Restocking, but they put something in already to help people avoid being stalked via AirTags. Yeah, and I would think you could argue the corner case of having family members have access to all the AirTags maybe isn't as common as you may think. they have a lost mode, just add a stolen mode that has different parameters. It wouldn't matter because you could just activate stolen mode and throw the AirTag on the person you're trying to stalk on their car or throw it in their gym bag or something. So it doesn't really matter if it's stolen or not. It's just if the parameter is don't notify nearby phones that they're carrying an AirTag that's not theirs, then if you get rid of that parameter, it suddenly becomes very, very easy to stalk people with AirTags. So tons of reviews on the Steam Deck. Sorry, I read that wrong. I don't know much about it, and I'm not really a gamer. I apologize. There's probably a ton of tech channels all far more interested in the Steam Deck than I am, so I'm not going to fake excitement. It's not something I plan on using. AirTags bagged. Someone was stalked. Time for Apple to stop selling a device that others have sold for years with less privacy restrictions. No, I don't think Apple or anyone made the argument that they need to stop selling it because there's a certain amount of abuse that you just can't prevent. But yeah. Will the March event only have the SE 5G and the new Air? As far as I can tell, that's all I'm really expecting because we haven't seen new Macs registered in the Eurasian database yet. We've only seen new iPads and new iPhones, which is kind of some of the last things you see before the Apple event happens. Before Apple publishes, like, here's our new hardware, you see them registered in the Eurasian database. And I haven't seen references to a new Mac Mini or shortened shipping times of the Intel Mac Mini, like anything that let me check real quick. Do you do a podcast on Friday? We record it on Friday and typically post it on Saturday, but I might not be on the next podcast because I've got a trip coming up. How long have you been doing this as your full-time job, and what did you study in college? I didn't study anything in college. Yeah, the Intel Mac Mini still ships right away, and it's available for pickup today. So there's no shortage of the Intel Mac Mini. So that would be something you would see that before the 24-inch iMac came out, was that last year? Yeah. Before the 24-inch iMac came out, the colorful one, we saw ship dates slowing down and waiting times extend for the 4K iMac, the 21.5-inch one. That one started showing up in shorter supply, which was evident of them no longer producing that model, which meant that for people who were buying it, there weren't that many left, or it was going to take longer to ship. I'm not seeing that with the Mac Mini, which maybe we'll start seeing in the next couple weeks. We got 1 month to go. But I have a feeling that everyone's probably really, really excited for this M1 Pro Mac Mini, and it's just not going to happen because I feel like with the chip shortage, they're not able to build enough M1 Pro or M1 Maxes to meet demand for the current MacBook Pros, which all sell over $2,000. So the idea that right now, as they're struggling to ramp up their MacBooks, they're also going to port this very high-in demand chip into a far cheaper Mac with far lower profit margins. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it does come out because I think this would be a tremendous value, probably the best Mac you can buy if you're not interested in buying a laptop. Just because we know the performance of the M1 Pro is so great, and they would probably price it under $1,500, so it would be really good value, but I just have a feeling Apple's not going to prioritize value right now when they're struggling to keep up with production. So my theory is that they're not going to update the Mac Mini until they're ready to debut the M2 chip. And they're just always going to update the Mac Mini alongside the MacBook Air. Whenever those get a spec bump, they're refreshed together. We're still a month away. There's still time. That's true. Maybe it'll start happening. Maybe we'll see a Mac Mini registered in the Eurasian database. It's possible, but I'm just saying, considering the product lineup right now and how production is going, it makes far more sense for them to debut the iMac Pro and the Mac Pro first. You would want to do the really good value Mac Mini later because that's probably going to eat into your iMac sales. Why would people spend $2,000 or $2,500 on an iMac Pro if they can spend $1,200 on a M1 Pro Mac Mini and just use a third-party monitor? Everyone's going to want to do that. So they're intentionally probably, in my view, knowing how Apple acts and how illogical it is for the consumer but beneficial financially, I would think they would save the M1 Pro Mac Mini for last. They would do that at the very, very end. Thank you, Alpha, for your support. Waiting for my 16-inch MacBook Pro coming in March. That's right. You've been waiting so long for that thing? Seriously. I went to college for graphic design. I basically did it for the memes. Oh, sorry. I didn't answer that question earlier. Thank you for the super chat, Ben. I'll answer that in a second. But I have been doing YouTube full-time since, I think, May of 2017. So we're coming up on the 5-year mark of full-time YouTube, thanks to you guys and your support. I owe it all to you. So seriously, this is a dream job. I look forward to it every day. It doesn't even really feel like work. It just feels like hanging out with my friends. So thank you for allowing me to do this for 5 years. It's really up to you guys. If you don't want me to do this full-time, I guess unsub and stop watching my videos. You're free to do that. But for some bizarre reason, you guys have kept watching over the years, which I'm insanely grateful for. And as long as you keep doing it, then I'll keep making content. So I'm loving it. But in college, I went to a community college that I was finishing up high school with. So I was in a program called College Connections, which meant that for my last year of high school, I would finish my college. I would finish my high school units at a community college and build some college credits on the side. So I was required essentially to take general ed classes. So I had to take an English class and a math class, and the only choices I had for other classes were like not super interesting to me. So I took Intro to Business, I took Film, and those are the only two I remember. The electives, I guess you could call it. And they were not helpful or useful at all. I with 100% certainty, I can tell you I learned literally nothing from those classes. There's never been a time in my head where I was like, oh yeah, remember that time I learned this? And oh, Mass Media and Society, that was the other one I took. I think I took statistics because I had to take the College Connections made me take some kind of math class, even though looking back at the high school graduation requirements only required me to take 3 years of math, not 4. And I had already taken 3 years. I took, what was it? Algebra 2, and I don't think I took pre-cal. I don't even remember. It was such a blur. It was such a waste of time. So many stupid classes with teachers that didn't know anything. I did not. I basically Intro to Film was like, here's how Adobe Premiere works, but it was nothing like advanced. And they were like, cameras work like this. This is what ISO is. This is what shutter speed is. It was a bunch of stuff I already knew. It was a waste of time. The horror of having to learn English and math. What's funny was in high school I took English and Spanish, but I was getting better grades in Spanish than I was in English. But and I can't speak a word of Spanish. I'm terrible at it. How do I get turned into an NFT? I don't know. Screenshot your picture and then brag about how you paid for it. Anyway, Ben Rayner super chatted. Do you think all the desktops could be delayed because of the chip shortage? That might be the reason. Yeah, it's very legitimate because Apple's being hit by it, and we thought the iMac Pro was coming out in spring, and now, according to Ross Young, it sounds like it's been pushed back. So, yeah, it's very possible that the chip shortage is causing all this. I started really following channels on YouTube in 2018. You were one of the first, along with Linus Tech Tips and MQHD. You've grown a lot. Not really. I'm kind of same guy, same size, whatever. Most of my growth was during the iPhone 10 era, and then obviously tapered off a lot since then because tech community has gotten a lot less interesting, and it's gotten far more saturated, that was for sure. Let's see. A spring event could also bring new Mac Minis or iMacs, or more likely some Apple News / TV updated and Apple Pay wallet features. I don't know why you think they would save Apple Pay / wallet features for a spring event. I don't think they've ever done that before. I don't know what they can change with Apple News. It's basically just flopping. Even then, I don't think it's worth having an event. Apple has stated many times they want more bandwidth than Bluetooth allows. If they figure a way around Bluetooth with custom silicon, I'd imagine we'd see lossless on Airpods. They were like referencing that in an interview, which makes me think it's going to happen eventually, but I don't feel like it's going to happen at this event. I think if Kuo is saying AirPods Pro 2 aren't launching until the fourth quarter, I believe him about that. I'm more inclined to believe bad news than good news, just because typically there are a lot of people faking good news because it gets clicks and it gets people excited, whereas The amount of fake bad news is just not as prevalent. I took 2 years of Spanish, learned the first year, forgot most of the second. Yeah, that was me too. Well, the problem with my Spanish class was that it wasn't very like useful ways of teaching. It was mostly just like do this crossword puzzle or do this word search. It was a lot of busy work. It wasn't like active speaking. It was just tests and writing words on paper and how do you say this word like this? How do you say this word like this? But it wasn't a lot of like flowing sentences together, in my opinion. Um, I didn't learn anything in English class either. I think a lot of school is useless, at least in its current state. And my parents are teachers, so if you want to hear more about my dad's thoughts on education, check out Raise Your Own Dang Kids on Amazon. It's a book he wrote that talks a lot about his life and my life. It's very good. Apple announced Apple Card Family at last year's spring event. Yeah, but like no one remembers that because there were so much more interesting things to talk about at the spring event. I wouldn't say just because they had a Apple Card Family feature at that event that means that's all it takes anymore. Um, Apple News isn't even used by me. I feel like people on Apple One don't even use Apple News. Is there a way that I can send you an email? I don't have social media. I think there is an email in my About section or something, but I'm probably not going to see it. If you want to reach out to me, probably Twitter, just tag me on Twitter is the best way to do it. I can't guarantee a response, but it's more likely I'll see it. I get so many junk emails these days from all these companies that think, for some reason, they think I do sponsorships. I've never done sponsorships, but they're all expecting me to. They're like, talk about this VPN, talk about this subscription service, talk about this case, talk about these headphones. And I'm like, I don't... Have you seen my channel? Do you know what I talk about? So there's just a crap ton of stuff in my email, so tag me on Twitter is probably the best way. Or Discord, like Mike is saying. If you don't like social media for whatever reason, then I'm sorry. You're just going to have a harder time getting a hold of me. When I took high school Spanish, I made sure to remember how to say the phrases. My Spanish skills are bad and I forgot a lot. And could you say that slower, please? Oh my God. My teacher threw objects at students that acted up. Yeah, I think I saw that happen. Isengard Tom says, I think they'll announce a non-mini LED 27-inch iMac, not the iMac Pro. I just don't think there's a need for like an entry-level consumer-grade, slightly larger iMac, right? Like, I think that the reason they made the 24-inch iMac was to kind of cover the basics of where instead of it being a pro machine, we're now leaning into this is a consumer machine. It's an iMac specifically not for pros because it has white bezels and it doesn't have very much I/O. And the chip is the same chip we put in an 11-inch iPad we're putting in a desktop computer. I was like, they're just kind of leaning in the opposite way of like, this is for the non-professionals. So to make a larger version for the non-professionals, and honestly, 27 inches versus 24 is not that different. I used the 24-inch iMac alongside my iMac Pro. It's really a very small detail to be like, let's upsell people on a couple inch difference is like, eh. And I don't think there's a need for one. I haven't seen much evidence of them making one or rumors of that happening. I guess it's possible, but they've designed the audio tab in the news app, and Mac rumors noted the existence of SportsKit API in iOS that allows for more crossover between news and TV. Okay, they've done that, but did they need an event for that? We've done this a few weeks ago. Matt6, thank you for the super chat. Do you still have contact with Xander? I love your skits with him. I'm sorry. It's long time ago. Friends grew in different directions, so no. It's just things happen. People grow in different ways. People go in different directions in life, and there's a lot of friends and people that were in Tailosive and stuff over time, and it's just some of them have stuck around over the years, and some of them haven't. So no, sorry. What are you going to do with Tailosive Space? I have no plans for it right now, but if I had more time in the day, I would love to make more space content, but I think it would be kind of pointless because I would probably do what so many other space channels are already doing really, really well. And I don't know if I could enter the space market with that much of a difference. Like, there's so many channels that are spending time on, just here's what's going on at Starbase, and here's some honorable mentions in NASA and what else is going on. So I I feel like I could just do the exact same thing, but I don't have the time for it, and it's probably just not going to attract that much people. I've had far more success with talking about EVs and talking about Apple, that I feel like, well, if that's what most people want out of me, then that's what I'll focus on. But yeah, Mike can take over Tailosive space. Yeah. Do you agree that iPadOS 15 is a downgrade from 14? The widget things is terrible. I do, yes. I objectively, like, there was a bunch of things that obviously they offered on iPadOS 15 that I would have really missed if I was still on iPadOS 14. Like, I love universal control. I want to use that. And, the focus features and do not disturb and stuff has changed since iPadOS 14. So I wasn't really in favor of keeping my iPad just on iPadOS 14 indefinitely, but I do still miss the pinned today view. I do still miss the adjustable widgets on the home screen. Not the adjustable, like, you can adjust the widgets now, but they just take up so much space. And I miss being able to have so many apps on one page, because that's how I like the today view. The multitasking I didn't really consider that an upgrade. It just got more dots everywhere. I don't really use those that much. And I don't use quick notes either. Even if you don't truly know me, I consider you a friend. Well, thanks, James. I think internet friends is safe to say. You're the guys that I see regularly in the chat and stuff, and I can recall you guys as, like, I consider you internet friends, which are still friends. It's just a little different than, like, my friends that I feel comfortable, like, showing up at their house or something, or inviting them to my house and that kind of. It's just a different level of friendship. But it's still, yes, it's still absolutely a form of friendship. Would you ever collab with iJustine? If she wanted to, sure. I think a lot of people just ask the collab question, but they don't really know what it's supposed to look like. Like, I've collabed with much larger creators than I, but those videos never really do that well. I mean, whether I'm in their videos or they're in mine, they always just kind of perform average. It's just kind of like, oh, okay, he talked. The two people I know that talk about technology talk to each other. And it's kind of interesting. It's like, It's like, what do you want us to do? To just get together and say that we like Apple products? I don't know. It probably wouldn't be that interesting. But if she or any tech creator really offered or said, like, hey, you should come on my channel, we should collab, I'd be like, okay, let me check my schedule and we'll see if it can happen. It's more fun for me than I think it is the audience. I just love talking and chatting with other creators, especially ones bigger than me, because I feel like there's a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience they have that I can learn from. It's just fun to chat with them. Whether or not we actually make content about it is kind of irrelevant for me. Like, we had Marquez on the podcast last year. That was really only because Nick and Randy were unavailable. They both told me they had things going on. And they were like, sorry, I guess you're on your own for the show this week. And I said, well, I'll see if I can find a guest. And I was like, I haven't talked to Marquez in a while. And I think he's the best tech content creator. I watch all this stuff. And I don't watch that many tech creators, frankly. I don't want to spend too much of my free time watching tech videos because I spend so much time making tech content. But the one channel I always watch everything they post is Marquez. So I was like, I want to collab. If I want to get someone on the podcast, I want to get someone that I know his opinions on a lot of things and I respect him and I watch all of his content. So I was like, let me just shoot him an email and see if he's free. So I did, and he was, so we made it happen. But I'm not really in the camp of, like, just trying to collab with as many people as possible. Maybe some creators are more into that and find that more fun. But I feel like when you have a larger creator, particularly someone who's a lot bigger than you on your channel or on your show, it's very difficult to make it feel like a dialogue where it's like I talk for 50% and they talk for 50%, because frankly, a bunch of the people watching that show now aren't there for me. they're there for Marquez, or they're there for whoever's John Morrison. They're there for whoever I'm collabing with. So it definitely changes that dynamic a bit and makes it more of an interview. Because typically when you come on to someone else's show, you don't ask the host a lot of questions. The host is asking you questions because you're the guest, and they're not on there every week, so you want to get their perspective on a lot of things. So it very quickly becomes, I'm going to ask the bigger creator a bunch of questions and get their opinions on it. And if you only do that, if you only have guests, and that's primarily what the podcast is, then there's not a lot of consistency with it, because all you're doing is asking questions. You're not always getting that much time, or you're not getting asked questions to share your opinion on such subjects. So it's important that in my view, it's important to have regulars, at least on the tech or EV podcast. That way we get the perspectives of each party and everyone's asking each other questions. I've tried. It's kind of difficult to invite someone on your show and be like, you should ask me some questions, just so it feels like more of a dialogue. But it doesn't work that well. You can't just invite someone on and be like, ask me something. I don't know. You invited me to be here, so I'm here. So yeah, it's like collabs are fun for me, probably more than they are for you, but statistically they just don't do super well. Can't wait to see Christian Bale collab with Drew. Oh, I would love to chat with him. One of my favorite actors. My wish announcements for next keynote: cheaper iPod Max, bigger 27-inch iMac, because I'm on 21.5-inch. It would be big for me personally. Wait, you're on the 21.5-inch, but 27 inches? Just get the 24, right? Oh my god. Did I just recommend the 24-inch iMac? I take it back. I rescind my comment. Your collab with John Morrison was great too. Love that guy. Would you collab again? I would love to, but I'm afraid to say he hasn't responded back to me. I haven't asked for a collab. I had some questions for him after I came back from our collaboration. I was just like, because he told me he was going to meet up with me somewhere because he had some trips to make up north, and I was asking him when he wanted to meet up, or asking him about equipment questions we were talking about, and I haven't heard back from him. He hasn't responded to me in over a year now. So I'm not asking him for anything in particular. I'll just shoot him a DM here and there and just say, hope you're doing well. But yeah, I hope I didn't say anything wrong. I hope I didn't offend him. I don't know what I did, but yeah, if he wanted to collab again, I'd be happy to. Let's see. MKBHD has good content. I like his podcast too. Yeah, I've been tuning into Waveform quite a bit. The majority of collab videos are so cringy. Had to watch two completely different styles and personalities mashed together. Yeah, there's always a bit of cringe when, you can tell they're two people that don't interact too frequently, and one of them is definitely a lot larger in the space than the other. It makes the other one feel nervous. I've been in that position. I know what it's like. Can we take a minute to think about a potential metaverse made by Apple that could be announced before the AR/VR glass? I just don't get the appeal, I guess, is my problem. What is the point? Like, why is the metaverse so interesting? Like, you go into a virtual world where everyone looks like memojis, and it's going to be kind of hard to interact with things unless you have some kind of device that's really good at hand and eye tracking. Because when you put something over your eyes, it's very hard to move around and do much. You can't do it in public. You can't do it when you're walking around. You can't, wear it while driving or anything. So that severely limits the use cases of it. It just becomes like a living room demo. You can put on a headset and pretend you have a TV, except the headset costs 10 times the price of the TV. And only you can look at it. If you want other people to look at the metaverse with you, they all have to get headsets. So, I don't get it. I knew he would come around on the bend with the 24-inch iMac. I caught you in 4K. Yeah. Well, we're actually streaming at 1080, so I'm going to have to privatize this whole live stream because I recommended the 24-inch iMac. What actually is predicted to be released at the March event? As far as I'm concerned, it's a 5G iPhone SE with the 815 chip. No design changes. Same crappy battery life, just now it has 5G. And an iPad Air 5, which has the 815 chip, center stage, maybe some new color options. That's it. That's That's all that's rumored. Hopefully, we actually get a Mac Mini with updated silicon on the inside. But I haven't seen much like concrete rumors or concrete like legit sounding leaks of that actually happening. Like Bloomberg's report on it didn't mention a new Mac Mini. They just said that there would be new Macs with M2 chips in the future. He didn't say to expect an M1 Pro chip at the spring event. The Apple Car should have MagSafe Pro Max. If you drive off without unplugging it, it'll safely connect. Oh, it would just be so inefficient, though. Oh my god. You just put a giant MagSafe puck at the bottom of the car. Just. Do Art with Dan says recommended the white bezel 24-inch iMac. iMac went from 21-inch to 24. The coming iMac Pro won't be 27 inches. It's going to be a 30-inch screen, right? No. At least according to Ross Young, who's very reputable and has been spot on with his display supply chain reports, he's saying it's a 27-inch mini LED display. Yeah, I don't know why we round up to 24. It's 23.5, but everyone's like, half-inch difference, who cares? It's like, then why don't we call it the 13-inch iPad Pro instead of 12.9? I'm actually going to try my best to keep calling it 13-inch iPad Pro just to tick people off. Should I get the iPad Air 5 or an iPad Air 4? Do you care about the A15 chip, and do you care about Center Stage? If neither of those things sound like a big deal to you, then probably wait for the Air 4 to get cheaper, because when the Air 5 launches, there will be sales of the Air 4. Personally, if you're debating between Air 5 and 4, I'm going to recommend certified refurbished 2018 iPad Pro. Still, far better product in my opinion than the Air, and probably cheaper. You can find a 2018 certified refurbished for like $500, and you're good to go. The metaverse feels like something that only people who hate the real world would want to go to, which now I think about it is a growing demographic. Yeah, I was going to say, there's a lot of people who hate the real world, but no, just frankly, I think metaverse sounds incredibly gimmicky. It sounds like a heavy subject in the tech community, but not much else. I don't see average consumers caring about that kind of thing. March 8th is my birthday. That'd be cool. Oh, cool. If I forget to tell you happy birthday, Paradise, then happy birthday. Yeah, I think that if it's going to be a boring event, if it's going to not have that much interesting information, get it over with as soon as possible, right? So March 8th is pretty soon. Is that also hold on, let me look at the calendar. Wait, what is this asking? Oh, prompt expired. All right, I hope that's okay. Doesn't need to be charging anymore. Are we getting a new Mini? I think we'll get a new Mac Mini eventually. I'm just not convinced it'll be at the spring event. There's still an Intel one on the website that needs to go away. I just think it'll go away with the M2 chip. I don't think it'll go away with the M1 Pro, unfortunately, because they know it would sell too well. Yeah, Metaverse does sound too Facebooky, which most people are not a fan of. Can I get a certified refurbished mini LED iPad Pro? Probably not yet. I haven't heard if they have any available, but shouldn't be too long. Have you ever thought of splitting your live stream into small clips after recording? I have. It's just going to take a long time, and I don't have that kind of time. If someone else wants to do it, go for it. You could put it on a separate channel, I guess, but yeah, I mean, the closest thing you have to making clips of my live streams into videos is just my normal tech edited videos. That's basically what those are. Yeah, the 120 hertz and the flash, that's what we really need in certified refurbished iPads. Let me find some here. Yep, they're still there. I'm looking right at it. Space gray. You can get an 11-inch iPad Pro, Face ID, 120 hertz, and the flash for $519, which is cheaper than an iPad Air 4. I don't see any. You know what's funny is I don't see any certified refurbished iPad Airs, even though they've been around for over a year now. Or if your budget is $600, then you could get a 12.9-inch iPad Pro for $629. And sometimes they sell $600 iPad Pros from 2020, which have more RAM and stuff in them. You have way too many channels, no need for more. I wouldn't make a new channel for that. I have a Clips channel. I also have an old Tailosive Tech Streams channel that I used to put the Twitch streams on. So I could rebrand that into a streams clips or whatever. I wouldn't need a new one. I would just recycle an old one. Do you think you could warm some soup between two Intel Mac Minis? Yes. More than 1 degree. It wouldn't be good at it, but yes, you absolutely could. What do you think about the Facebook market drop? I was so happy. I was cheering. I'm not a huge fan of Meta as a company as a whole. I don't really like their business model, and I don't really like their social media anyway. Like, my father-in-law is visiting right now, and he has WhatsApp, so whenever we communicate with him, we have to use WhatsApp. But he's the only person I talk to on WhatsApp, and I do not like the way that app is built. I don't like the default settings. I don't like the UI. I don't like the spam I've gotten on there. I'm not a fan of WhatsApp, and I'm grateful I don't live in a country where everyone uses it, because unfortunately, most of the world does have to use it just because that's what everyone uses, and I hate that it's owned by Meta, and there's like no way around that. But a Facebook app itself is poorly designed and fairly dated in regards to like the demographic it tries to appeal to, and they were so slow on dark mode and still don't do the split screen stuff. So I don't like the way Facebook as a social media site is built. Their monetization for video is confusing, and I'm not really that big a fan of Instagram either. I mean, it's better than Facebook, but I don't really like much about that company as a whole. There's not really anything I would say Meta is good at. I mean, they own the Oculus brand, and then they got rid of it, but they treated all the Oculus fans like trash. Like, they told them you wouldn't need a Facebook account when they bought them, and then later said, actually, if you want to use your headset, you need to tether it to your Facebook account. And then they ditched the Oculus branding. So it's not even of their own creation. They just bought out another cool company, which I don't really consider Meta's creation. That's just, they threw money at something. And same, Instagram got really popular, and Meta just bought them out. So it's not really like they created Instagram. So all they're really good at is tracking people and making a ton of money through advertising, and then using that money to buy out the competition, which I'm not really a fan of. It's like, I don't really think Apple does that. Some people probably would make that argument. Apple just buys up companies that do the same thing. It's like, yeah, they do buy certain companies and incorporate their technology into their brand, but there's still a lot of like native first party stuff Apple does that no one else has done, whether it's AirPods or the Apple Watch or custom silicon and that kind of stuff. It's not like they just bought Fitbit and then turned Fitbit into their own thing. I mean, they bought Beats, but they didn't really, in my opinion, they haven't really done much. I liked Instagram pre-Facebook buyout. Now I'm torn on what to do with all the memories I've put into Instagram. That's the thing, is it's almost like impossible to not use their services. Like, my cousin doesn't like Meta either, so he canceled all of his Meta-related apps, social media and WhatsApp. He just doesn't use any of them. And he's lost contact with a lot of people because he told them, like, I don't want to use WhatsApp. I want to use some other service like Telegram. And some of his friends will just not move over to Telegram. They insist on using WhatsApp. So he's just like lost communication with certain people. Meta is encouraging bullying. Right? That's how it works. So I don't really love anything about that brand, which is why, and I don't really use much of their services. Like, I occasionally will post stuff on Instagram, but I do it through the web. I don't use the Instagram app. And I'm really only using it as a free cloud hosting service. Like, I only use Instagram if I'm like, I want to preserve this picture long term, and I don't want to put it on iCloud because that's going to cost money. So, oh dang, I didn't see the message, but thank you for the super chat, Jordan. It says message retracted. Oh well. What about TikTok? Also not a fan. Although I know I'm in the minority on that one. TikTok is insanely popular. I'm not as into the short form content. I know there's good stuff on TikTok, but I usually find it on other platforms. Like, I'll watch TikTok meme compilations on YouTube, but they're usually not all TikToks. They're like mixed in with other stuff. So there's certain short form content that I like, but I don't like the TikTok app. Like, I'm not a fan of the autoplay and just swipe through everything. I like looking for my content and then clicking on it. What is it exactly about Instagram that you dislike? Oh, it's just they still don't have an iPad app. I don't like how they just like straight up copy stuff from Snapchat, and I've never been a fan of the stories thing. I know I'm in the minority on that one, but to me, the purpose of taking pictures and videos digitally is that you can preserve it so easily. So the concept of posting photos and videos that just disappear, and I think I agree with Mike. I preferred Instagram when you could just like post pictures, and now it's just gotten into the advertising, and they rearrange the layout of the buttons and stuff. They mess up all the time, and they're like, oh, actually the feed's not chronological anymore, and they just, the videos being restricted and how they're uploaded and everything still has to be a square at a certain point, but then you adjust the aspect ratio, but then it's still cut off when you're looking at it. I don't know. I think they just made it too complicated, and I think I liked Instagram when it was more simple and it was really basic. It's like you have to upload everything as a square picture, and then they complicated everything. I would say it's better than Facebook is now, but I don't spend much time on Instagram. Like, I don't have the app. I just occasionally, if I want to preserve a picture, I'll open it up on Safari and post it through that. I don't like TikTok either. I only watch them whenever my friend sends them, and many of them I still find it cringe. I think that the amount of cringe still outweighs the amount of good content, but thank you for the super sticker, Michael. That was nice of you. I do have a TikTok account. I did make one just because I didn't want other people to make one pretending to be me. So I figured I should make one first and post some content on it. So I did post a little bit, but I'm just being honest with you. I don't use it regularly. Like, I don't have the TikTok app on my phone. I don't like check it or anything. Stories are good for saving into albums. My only complaint toward them are photos, and I don't see much for them to keep, but I want people to see. The other thing I don't like about the stories feature is like it's only a certain amount of time. So people will post like hour-long stories, but every 10 seconds there has to be this little jump cut, and it's compressed to heck anyway. Let's see. So I was very happy to find out when the stock went down. It's like, we're not doing very well, and we're losing all this money to the Apple privacy features in iOS. I was like, yeah, all right. You can't make money off of tracking people. Congratulations. Like, I would love it if they went bankrupt. If Meta went bankrupt and they had to be like bought out by someone else and they just lost all their money and they couldn't remain as a company anymore, I would be so happy. I don't know what would happen to all the people on Facebook, but I think they would get over it. Something else would fill in its place that would probably be better. Apple should make their own browser. Have you heard of Safari? Do you think that we all be get software after the Apple event? You mean quadruple UDC? You'll probably get dev betas. I don't know what software you're talking about at the spring event, but maybe they have some Apple Card feature or something. The single most important Apple effort... Man, you guys really don't read these messages before you send them. The single most important Apple effort is faster graphics from their work at Blender. I don't know why you think that would be the most important, but I guess that's just an inevitable benefit of switching to their own silicon, which is more optimized. Yeah, you get better internal graphics, of course. Who should buy Meta? Oh man, I don't know. Anyone who buys Meta is probably going to get accused of antitrust. Probably Microsoft, right? They're buying a bunch of crap right now. For some reason, Microsoft wasn't part of the antitrust hearings, which I think they absolutely should be because of all the game companies that keep buying out. So I don't get why Apple gets accused of antitrust, but Microsoft doesn't. Like, what's the difference between what they're doing? Let's see. Is everyone over the sideloading nonsense? No, I guess not. There's still a lot of people that disagree with me on that. They're convinced that sideloading can be done in a responsible, safe way, and I'm just less convinced, I guess. Because there's more money to be made on iOS than there is on Android. So they're like, well, Android doesn't have these alt store problems. And I was like, yeah, because people don't spend much money on Android. But if you could do alt stores on iOS, there'd be a lot of money you could potentially make. In their mind, they would say. Oh, is it back? Sorry, I have an alarm set on my phone. Okay. That probably caused the stream to freak out. hope it's okay. Let me double check. Okay. It says it's working. I can't tell if it is. I had an alarm set on the phone. I don't know why I didn't turn that off. Okay. It's back. I think it looks back. The difference between Apple and Microsoft. Apple is good. Oh my god. Yeah, Microsoft is also extremely dominant in the PC software space, but I think they're more open market about it. Like, you can install a lot of software from the not Windows store. Okay, we're all good. Every platform should just allow Apple App Store on all platforms. People will send money because Apple... Right, that's how it makes. Let's see. What is your TikTok called? Take a super wild guess. Take an extremely wild guess what you think my TikTok account would be called. The stream freaked out, but we're not on Starlink. I'm still streaming over cellular, but I have an alarm set on my phone. I need to pick up my mom from the airport shortly, so that was my alarm. So I'm going to have to wrap up the stream pretty quick here. Currently watching this on a modded version of the YouTube app that I sideloaded. It lets me listen with the screen off without paying for YouTube Premium. I guess that's nice. I just hope there's still ads. Otherwise, you're literally pirating content. If you do that, it's less fun. The difference between Apple and Microsoft is that Apple actually does a good job with their monopolistic power in providing a good user experience. I'm not so worried about Windows being a monopoly because they let a lot of third-party support on it anyway. But the bigger difference is, I think, just buying out gaming companies and then turning their games into exclusives, which is kind of the whole battle between Xbox and PlayStation. It's not really a battle of who has the better graphics card or who has the better storage or who's even cheapest. It just comes down to what exclusive game titles you have. And that's why Microsoft is buying out all these different companies so that they can, I think, they say in the meantime, no, it'll still work on PlayStation, but long term, I wouldn't be shocked if the PlayStation option becomes more and more of a second-class citizen for it and eventually just goes away, or certain features they don't bring to PlayStation because they want to give Xbox that advantage. When do you think they'll announce WWDC? Is it usually end of March or just last year one-off? Typically, they do announce it fairly early. I don't know why, but I remember one year they announced Quadruple UDC in like February. I don't know why they do it early. Well, at least before they would do it early because they would invite so many developers, like 5,000 people would show up. So they would want you to have a notice so you could book hotels and make plans for it. But now that it's all online, you don't really need to announce it that early. So, oh well. Almost no one makes more boring and dull products than Microsoft. No offense intended. Well, they're definitely not a trillion-dollar company because of their hardware. I think it's primarily for the software. So, let's see. Oh my God. Such a large super chat from Jordan's Topics. Thank you. It says, couldn't send a message with first super chat because it isn't enough, apparently. Still getting used to these also random, but I like to call the office days of Drew the marshmallow Drew days. Why, thank you. Is it because I looked like a marshmallow? That's accurate, I guess. That could be right. I'm working on it. Despite the memes, I have lost some weight. I've been eating a lot healthier this year, not eating as much sugary foods or desserts, and watching calorie intake, tracking calories, also intermittent fasting. Last I checked, I haven't weighed myself for about a week, but last I checked, I had lost 10 pounds this year. So that's only within like a month and a half. So I'm on my way. I'm on my way down, but thank you for the super chat, Jordan. I just cannot see Apple doing an event for iPhone SE and iPad Air refreshes only. The Watch and iPad event in September 2020 features a redesign. That was because of iPhone circumstances that way. Was it really a redesign, though? What was the redesign in the September 2020 event? Wasn't it just the more colors of the 11-inch iPad Pro rebranded? And the Apple Watch was the same thing, just different color options from the Series 5. He's been doing his Fitness Plus. No, I'm I'm losing weight and I'm eating healthier, but absolutely not using Fitness Plus. How's the fasting been? It's actually been fine. We typically fasted a lot last year. The problem was intermittent fasting. So I only eat between 12 and 8 o'clock. So for 2/3 of the day, I don't eat anything. But the problem was when I was eating, I wasn't eating very good. I was eating a lot of, taking in too much sodium and salt and too many high calorie meals and a lot of desserts, especially when we had long days at work and stuff and we were tired. I was giving into comfort food too regularly. So I've cut comfort food out of my diet, and that's actually been incredibly difficult recently because it was my wife's birthday yesterday. So happy birthday to Louise. But she had some friends over, and of course with birthdays, and her dad's in town visiting. So when you have family together and when there's birthday parties going on, and my birthday is in 10 days, so she's like, what do you want for your birthday? And I'm like, don't tempt me, because this is how you fall into that trap, is like, if you're trying to eat healthier and then you're like, well, maybe for this one occasion I can have some cake, or maybe this one thing. So I've tried to be really confident about, like, no, even if it's a birthday, even if it's a special occasion, I'm just cutting it out because I'm too overweight, and I'm still technically, I think, in the mildly obese sector. So I'm trying to get out of that. I want to get to more of a healthy weight. So I haven't weighed myself in a week or two, but I think I'm probably close to the lightest I've been since I've been married, which is cool. But even when I got married, I was not that. I was Marshmallow Drew. So I'm on my way down. Fruit makes a fantastic healthy dessert. Absolutely, Scott. I totally agree. Now we reward ourselves with fruit at the end of dinner, which has made it changes your taste palette, which is cool. So because of me cutting out the sweets and the desserts and stuff, and I haven't had cake or anything or any cookies, and oh my God, it's probably a social battle more than anything, because I'm not really desiring the sugary foods even. I'm just kind of like, whatever, I just want to eat what makes me healthy. But people are just like, do you want one? I made them from scratch. And I'm like, oh, I'm sure they're delicious, but no thank you. And they're like, what? Why don't you want to eat? Or, just people are like, come on. Especially, like, I don't mean to be rude, but this is a real problem I've experienced. If you're trying to lose weight and eat healthier, and you're at like a social gathering where there's sugary foods or cake or something, and there's someone else there that is heavier set than you, it's okay. I've been heavy set a long portion of my life. I'm not saying it's like they're a bad person or anything. I'm just saying it becomes awkward if someone offers you cake and you can just tell from the outside you're lighter than they are, and you tell them, sorry, I'm trying to watch my weight. And you're saying that to someone who is partaking in the sweet. It's just really awkward. It gets awkward so fast because they're like, so you think you're overweight? So what does that say about me? So you think I'm too big? That kind of interaction is like, no, it's your life. You do what you want. I'm not saying you should lose weight. Like, you can do what you want. It's my own personal decision. This is just what I want to do. It's difficult. Just also to be kind to yourself. This is a marathon cliche. Birthday celebration is one day, then get right back on. Don't do what I do sometimes. Well, it'll start back on Monday. The problem is there's so many freaking birthdays, especially in February. I have the same birthday as my aunt. There's like my uncle is born in February. My friends, I have different friends all born in February. There's so many birthdays going on, and the exceptions, when people say, oh, it's just one day, that comes up a lot. It happens a lot. We got Valentine's Day. We've got my wife's birthday yesterday. We have my birthday in 10 days. We've got friends and relatives. There's probably like 5 or 10 birthdays we're going to celebrate this month. And if at each one there's cake, and at each one there's celebration, and then March comes around, my mom's birthday and my sister's birthday, and just more and more events come up, it's like you gotta put your foot down eventually and say, like, there's too many exceptions to this rule. So I haven't had raspberries in a while. That sounds well. You can always be like, I'll get some cake later, then just don't get the cake. That's exactly what I did. I did not have a single slice of cake at the birthday party. So, woo! Lighter! February is your family's birthday month, it seems. It is. Well, a lot of it. But just throughout the year, there's a ton of birthdays when you know people. Anyway, this isn't tech related. Started doing push-ups daily with the goal of reaching 100 consecutive push-ups by the end of the year. I too feel the need to lose weight, so it becomes easier to push myself up. That's good. Yeah, I should do that too. We've been doing some exercise, but you don't got to tell me I had my birthday, Thanksgiving right after. I blew up, then Christmas came along. Yeah, dude, this only gets worse in the holiday months. You know, it's terrible. Halloween, you got all this candy. Thanksgiving is just big meal after big meal, and then Christmas is more sweets and cookies. Yeah. I mean, I appreciate it. The thought of people offering it is so nice and friendly, and especially when people offer you a ton of meals, or it's your birthday, so they give you sweets. Like, happy birthday, I got you this bag of Ghirardelli. It's like, thanks, but, okay, I gotta gift this to someone else. Yeah, it's like, just, I'm trying to keep my New Year's resolutions throughout the year, so it's tough. Avoid the awkwardness by telling them, I just drink a lot of water, so I'm full. No one's gonna buy that. It's a cake is a different kind of full. But anyway, what's up, Drew? What's the best way to preserve battery life health on my 12.9-inch M1 iPad Pro? Unfortunately, there's not much battery health feature, so I would just say don't think too much about it. Don't worry about it. Probably don't leave it at 100% all the time, and also don't let it go below 20% too frequently. So I guess your best bet is just leaving it between 20 and 80% most of the time. I have a lockbox that my daughter's junk food is in. If I see it, I eat it. Oh, that's funny. Huh. Yeah, it's just... It is kind of a marathon, though. That's the thing. Too many exceptions pop up. I appreciate the super chats, though. I do got to pick up my mom from the airport, so I got to get going here. But thank you all for tuning in. This was a ton of fun. I am actually going to be taking a surprise trip that I wasn't expecting to take this week, so there might be less uploads than normal, but I'm okay. Don't worry. And I'll post my travel vlogs on Tailosive Talks, so subscribe to that channel if you want to see more of that kind of stuff. Beachbody, you should invest in the stock. It's called Body. Is that investment advice so I can sue you if I lose money on it? That's how that works, right? Think about low power mode on... What do you think about low power mode on MacBooks? Sure, if you can, go for it. Just turn off 120 hertz, but take care all, and I'll see you all later. Bye-bye. Oh, wait, we got to hit this button now.